Hi everyone. Today we're going to discuss and introduce the ability to draw your own custom layouts and do your own custom animations. This by far is one of the cooler things. I guess this for some of you this will get you one step closer to uh, making your games, whatever it is. I know that there are several people in the class that are doing this. So I decided to take a moment here to explain how this works. I'm working from my the example that I've been working for all quarter long. It's that CIT 296 Autumn 11 project. I've gone ahead and added another class. It's called Graphics Activity. We'll talk more about it in a second, but I just want to review really quickly. When you add an activity, you have to make sure that you come down here to the manifest file. I'm going to open that up, and you add another activity entry underneath the application tag. Okay, very important. Also, yet again, bringing emphasis to the fact you do not delete this period. As some people have pointed out, yes, you could put the full package name, make a fully qualified name to the Android class, but this is a nice shorthand. It's pretty common to see people do this. So at the very least, you have to have the name of the class and the period. Okay. All right. So now that I've added that, I actually went back into my main activity, which is my launchable. This is the first activity to be run when the application is launched, and added another button. It's called graphics button. If we open up the main.xml layout, you'll see that it's pretty simple. It just has several buttons in it. Switch over to graphical layout so that way you can see what's going on. So you can see I added, it's called custom graphics. When you click on this button, what it's going to do is it's actually going to transport to the graphics activity, the new graphics activity I just made. Okay, so I added, just so you know, you can check this out yourself, but I also added an event listener so that way it actually does kick off the switch to the graphics activity class. All right. So looking at the graphics activity class, at the surface it looks like there really is not much that's very different from what we're used to doing. Okay, you still have the name of the class, which extends activity, and you have your onCreate function. This is where things change. Okay, because there is no XML file that backs this whatsoever. There's no XML layout file. There's none necessary, because what we're going to do is we're actually going to make a layout on the fly programmatically. Okay, and this is very easily done. What you have to understand about all of the elements, including layout files, all the user interface elements like buttons and edit texts and text views, and even layouts, they are all a descendant of the Android class view, V-I-E-W, view. Okay, they're all views. I know this sounds weird because some views appear within others, and that's just the behavior of the view class. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to essentially roll our own view, our own layout or user interface element, what have you. Okay, so if we look down here, this is where we've actually decided to implement this. This is a Java inner class, and it's inner because it does appear within the graphics activity class definition. Okay, it's labeled as private static class, and I chose to name it Android drawable view. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it custom graphics. You can call it gameplay. You can call it watermelon. It doesn't really matter. Okay, I encourage you to name it something meaningful. But you'll notice that one of the more important things about this is the fact that it extends the view class. This view class, oh, very important. If you don't extend this, then when you try to make it your layout, it will crash. Okay? So once you create this inner class and extend the view class, it's going to ask you, it's going to tell you that you need to import or implement one of the default constructors. This is the bare minimum that you can get by. There are two. There's one that has the context, and there's another one that has context and attribute set. And you don't really need the attribute set because you're not passing data to this class. So just implement this. And what this says is it's going to make a call up to, or this is the constructor, so that way we can pass the context of the current graphics activity into it to be dealt with. Okay, we've done this. This passing of the context variable is the same thing as giving this to the default button constructor, or giving this to any other user interface element that works with view. Okay, so add this constructor. It will tell you that it needs to. And after that, after you add this constructor, it's going to be happy. There's not going to be any visible errors. But here's the problem. We haven't told this Android drawable view class what to draw. Okay? And that is done by adding this protected void onDraw function right here. What you put in here is really dependent on what it is that you want to do. But the definition for this method is as is. Okay? This is a function that does exist, but it's not abstracted. What we're doing essentially is we're overriding it. Okay, every user interface element has an onDraw function. Okay, and what it does is it defines what is to be drawn to the screen every single time the screen is refreshed. Okay, this begs a interesting discussion about how graphics actually really work. All right, the screen, unless we're talking about a Kindle, which we're not, the screen is refreshed constantly. Okay, there is a certain rate at which the screen is redrawn, and it's more than one time a second. It's actually several 100,000 times a second, and every time the screen has been told to redraw, it calls all the respective onDraw functions. Okay, this one for the Android drawable view, this view is actually going to occupy the entire screen. We haven't told it to occupy anything less than that. We want it to because we're trying to take over the drawing of the screen without using an XML file. So you have to understand that anything that you put in this onDraw function is going to be drawn hundreds of thousands of times a second. Okay. So, that having been said, you do not have the ability to call onDraw, nor should you. This is the onDraw function you're overriding is called by the operating system as the operating system determines that it's necessary. All right, so you just implement it. You do not have to call this. This is just one of those functions that just need to be overridden. There is a single parameter in this function, and it's very, very important. It's called canvas. The canvas class defines an area which we can actually draw 2D and sometimes 3D graphics. Okay, this is a necessary parameter. I'm not putting this in here because this is something that is just beneficial. It is required because you need to tell it where to draw to. When the operating system calls the onDraw function at will, it also passes it the canvas, the actual screen area in which it can be things can be drawn. And in this case, since we haven't restricted it to any particular area, it's the entire screen. Okay, so our very first line of our onDraw function, we've told it to draw on the canvas a color, and in that color we chose to be red. You'll notice that not only is draw color a function, but there's actually another class in here. There's a class called color, and in it has a instance variable red, and this is actually a very strange hexadecimal integer that is predefined for you. You can choose anything. It can be black, assuming I know how to type, right? As long as it turns blue, you know you got the right color. It could be white, could be blue. There are several of them, and if you look up the color class on Java docs, you'll actually see all the values you can choose. This is not an Android color, canvas, and I guess that's it, and bitmap. These are all not just Android classes. These are actually thanks to Java. This is a true 100% original Java ability. This is not like, oh, thank you, Android. Thank you for making these classes so we can draw stuff. You can do this in any Java application. Okay, it just happens to work a little bit differently since the code for mobile is architected slightly differently. So All this 2D and 3D drawing ability is thanks to Java, not Android just. So okay, in this line, we're telling it to draw the color red, and what this is going to do, it's actually going to fill the entire screen with the color red. Yes, it's ugly, but it does show the extents at which this line and this function can affect the screen. Okay. Following that is a call to grabbing a particular image. I downloaded this image from the internet. It's just a picture of a BMW. I know, what else? What this line does is it goes and grabs the resource from the drawable folder, and the actual file is called bmw.jpeg, and loads it into this bitmap object, which I have named BMW. Then what I do is I say, I want you to draw this bitmap on the canvas at position 0, 0. Okay. When we're talking about canvas and drawing graphics, 0, 0 is always the top left-hand corner. And the positive directions, the positive axes, go from left to right and up to down. That's positive. So if I were to say 100, 100, it would actually be going down and to the right. Okay. So, but I've told it to draw this image of the BMW at 0, 0, which is the top left-hand corner. If I save what I've done here and run it in the emulator, the first thing we'll be faced with is my main activity, where I will need to select the button. Notice how I didn't close it. Don't close it, leave it up. Click on Custom Graphics, and sure enough, you have an entirely red background. It's red underneath the image, you can't tell, but also this picture of this BMW at 0, 0. And when I say 0, 0, the registration point for this image is at the top left. So what it's done is taken and put the top left of the image in the absolute top left portion of the screen. So the top left 0, 0 of the image is at 0, 0 of the screen. It's that simple. If we wanted to, we can come back here. We can say, I don't really like blue. Change that to blue. Hit run. Come back here. Wait, as usual. Wait very patiently. Click Custom Graphics. And it's blue. Alright, yes, these colors are ugly. No, you are not restricted to this. To move beyond the point of having a nicer looking interface, that just takes more time. There are some tricks of the trade, so if there's something in particular that you want to do, then you should let me know, and I will point you in the right direction. This is only meant to serve as a, here's how you get started, not how do you make a $1 million game. Alright, so as you can see, and I'm not claiming that all the games on the Android market are like this, or written like this, but you can see that this can take a lot of work to make something good. All right. Luckily for us, what I'm not illustrating, but it is possible, is you can attach event listeners to things like this bitmap or shapes, 2D shapes that you happen to draw. So you could make a game just by using this canvas. The other option is it is possible to make a game using Flash or some other supported graphics package and deploy this in a Android activity or Android application shell. But in this class, you're not allowed to use that. I want you to stick to pure Java and Android and really squeeze all the abilities out of it. You're not going to find yourself to be too restricted. It's fairly interactive, but so really your imagination is going to be a limiting factor. If you want to do something that you're not exactly positive how it's normally done, you just have to ask. All right. So we've got a blue screen, we've got a BMW, and we've created, I don't know if you've realized, we've created this layout all without the help of an XML file. All without the help. And that's pretty amazing, because up to this point, I've been telling you that you must have an XML file to have something visible on the screen. Well, this is proof that you don't. Okay? So for those of you who are making interactive games, this is definitely something to look into. Some of you have gotten started on this. If you have never talked to you about doing this, this is a good starting point. Start with this. Create an activity that draws its own view, and we can go from there. All right? If you have any questions, be sure to let me know. You can contact me via email. Everyone have a great day.